Alderman Dunn.
Here.
Alderman Sesh. Alderman Will.
Here.
Alderman Dawson. Alderman Carey.
Here.
Alderman Ball.
Here.
Alderman Mills.
Here.
Alderman Chavez.
Here.
Alderman Brown.
Here.
Just for the record, Alderman Dawson's fighting a little laryngitis or something, so please bear with that. Can I get a motion to dispense with the minutes of the previous meeting? Approve same. Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? The minutes are adopted, 9-0. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the general bills? Motion.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? The bills are paid, 9-0. We now enter into the public speaking portion of the meeting. And just for the record, the council has allotted, per their rules, a 30-minute allotment time for this purpose. And just also for the record, the aldermen cannot engage in debate, so please direct your comments to the council chair. And give your name and address for the record. First speaker, please.
Catherine McCullough.
Good evening, and thank you all for hearing what the public has on its mind. In a way, it's unfortunate that I'm going first because I'm really upset about what's going on, as happens from time to time. We've just come back from the statewide preservation conference in Geneva and from Indianapolis, Indiana, the state that has the largest statewide preservation organization. This always happens. Shall I start over? Thank you again for hearing the public. And I want to talk about a matter that I find very upsetting. As I started to say, we just came back from the statewide preservation conference in Geneva, where we saw the many states in western New York where there's strong support for preservation and what they're doing with the tools that preservation offers. And a visit to Indianapolis, Indiana, where they have the largest statewide preservation organization in the country, times 10. And they're doing wonderful things, some of which I was able to participate in the 80s when I lived there. When Julian Adams from the New York State Historic Preservation Office and Daniel McKay, Public Policy Director for the Preservation League of New York, came down from Albany to advise on Kingston's comp plan draft, they were beyond surprised how little preservation incentives had been used to benefit Kingston's economy. Since then, we've learned that very few people have heard of preservation incentives, and almost no one in Kingston knows how they work. No wonder Kingston hasn't benefited the way countless other less historic communities have from preservation. In some weird loop, preservation tools created to spur reinvestment in disinvested historic communities like Kingston are largely unlearned and unused here, and so have resulted in little benefit to Kingston. We can change that for you. The members of the 2 historic commissions, the Friends of Historic Kingston, and a legion of preservation volunteers will donate the time to help property owners learn how to benefit from preservation tax incentives. Help the city make a plan for Midtown revitalization that leverages preservation tools and experience, and help Kingston achieve the reputation as the best place to buy an old house or building in the Hudson Valley. Julian Adams and Daniel McKay advised that we were in a position to take advantage of that for people who are shopping for a place to move. In return, we want a moratorium on demolitions until there is a clearly defined rationale and comprehensive plan for what will be torn down that Alderman Will has asked for. And we want the city to quit acting like what goes on in their decision-making rooms is none of our business. Transparency, accountability, and meaningful public engagement are good government, and that's what we want and expect. historic preservation career and as director of museums and arts organizations like the Woodstock Guild and national landmarks throughout the valley. I raised millions of dollars for Scenic Hudson and some of these other organizations. I've offered 3 times over the past 3 years, or many times over the past 3 years, to help the mayor and Greg create a capital fund to build the capacity and protect these historic buildings that we have. And now we're at a juncture where we're going to undermine one of our best resources. And a lot of the public, as you probably noticed in the comp plan, the overwhelming majority of Kingston citizens care about their historic resources. The overwhelming majority. Is that something you look for when you're going for election? I think it is. We want to help you. We're shut out of the process until the 11th hour, and we don't have the opportunity. But many of us bring professional skills and long professional careers and are willing to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Donskoy.
Hello, my name is George Dunsquire. I'm here to represent the Historic Landmark Preservation Commission. I want to thank, first of all, Jane Keller, Renata Sawyer, and Brad Wells for bringing this portion of the demolition process to our attention and seeing to it that we can see through it and would like to see it revert back to the clause where we are included in the process as a Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission, and that we, who approve these kind of questions, would like to be asked to maintain that part of the record. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete.
Bill Knoll.
I guess the first part of this evening is about history. My name is Bill Knowles. I live on Hurley Avenue in Kingston, and I'm president of the Volunteer Firemen's Hall and Museum. And what I want to do is talk to you about the museum itself and then talk a little bit about the lease that has been now publicly discussed. Our mission statement for the museum is to further the interest in firefighting history of the city of Kingston, the county of Ulster, and to aid the preservation, distribution, and sharing of this knowledge. The construction of the Wiltwyck Fire Station started in 1857, and the occupation took place in 1858. In 1975, the Wiltwyck Firehouse was listed on the National Record of Historic Places as being of particular interest within the Stockade District. In 1980, the 7 volunteer fire companies and the Exempt Association organized the Volunteer Firemen's Hall and Museum of Kingston as a tax-exempt Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, and chartered in 1981 with the New York State Board of Regents. The museum opened its doors in 1982. The lease, the city, as you all know, that owns the building, owns the Wiltwyck Fire Station. And for 34 years, the building has been leased to the Volunteer Firemen's Hall and Museum. And every 5 years, the lease has rolled over until 2012. In October of 2012, we requested a new lease. The first response we received from the city indicated that they wanted the museum to assume the utilities, and that was in 2014. In May of 2014, we responded our willingness to assume the cost of the utilities, and we did nothing. Happened until June, well actually in June of 2014, we met with the Laws and Rules Committee, and at that time the Laws and Rules Committee stated that the Volunteer Firemen's Hall and Museum was the best use of the Wiltwyck Fire Station. That essentially has been the last response that we've had since May of 2014. The Wiltwyck Fire Station is the most important exhibit of the Volunteer Firemen's Hall and Museum, and Right now, the museum is working with another non-for-profit organization in assuming ownership of the Wiltwyck Fire Station if the City of Kingston is unwilling to lease the building. Now, I have two other gentlemen who are going to take their 3 minutes, and they have more details to provide for you.
Thank you.
Mark, first you.
What? Okay. I think we just lost him.
Tony Pagliano.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Pagliaro. I live on Granite Court in Kingston. I'm Vice President of the museum. I'm going to give you a little bit of some facts and figures. First, just to let you guys know that so far from now until for the rest of this year, we've put in place in our budget up to $10,000 to cover any expenditures that we may have we are going to incur. So far over the last couple of years, the average cost for heating is $2,310.70. The average cost for electricity over the same period of time from 2011 to 2014 was $768.02. Average cost for maintenance cost over that same period was $2,783.96. So the utility cost over that same period of time has decreased by a little over $2,000, almost $2,100. We the members want to assume responsibility for the firehouse. We need your support and encouragement to accomplish this goal. Again, as Bill mentioned, that we have a little gem of a museum that's very beneficial to the city, for tourism, for the economy of the city. And I want to thank you for taking the time and consideration. I hope we can still work together so we can be an asset to the city. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Sandra Dassey.
Good evening, my name is Cassandra Dassey. I just want to take a few minutes of your time, and I promise I'll be done. I didn't write anything down because I wanted to speak from the heart, and that's W-O-N-E, not D-U-N-N. What I wanted to say was, I want to talk about the Roundout Neighborhood Center, which every now and then comes across your papers and try to figure out money should go down there and what's it going to be used for. The Roundout Neighborhood Center was built in the early 1970s after urban renewal, which most of us are familiar with. It was a place to go for children 5 to 18 years old, and after they turn over 18, some of them do come back and volunteer because it's a place that they love. It was a second home to them. It was a safe place for them to be at, and the kids and the youth in this community were so happy there that they couldn't tell if the building was in major need of repair. They always felt love when they was in there. They couldn't tell if the pipes were broken or they had still the same curtains that have been there since their parents played there. It was just a wonderful place. We also have uptown the Everhigh Center for youth. I believe it's the same age. And the employees there and the employees down at the Roundout Center pretty much both work for the Parks and Recreation, which means that they should both be there to serve our youth in this community. I know budgeting and funding is limited here, and when it does go down to the Roundout Neighborhood Center, for the most part, it's usually like a Band-Aid putting on an open wound instead of a tourniquet to stop the bleeding and fix it the right way. So what happens is they take the money and they try to fix up what they can fix up, and then they're able to continue and get another month or two or a year or so. If you happen to ride past the center, you'll see it any time. There's never a large crowd of kids out fighting. There's never paper thrown all around. There's nice plants outside because the employees that work there are dedicated and really, give a lot of heart and soul to that building. What happens is, what I understand recently, there's some money that was, a little bit of extra money that was going to go to the Roundout Neighborhood Center that would probably have to decide, should it go to this small cut or this small cut? Meaning, should we buy a few extra basketballs or paint the bathroom or fix the pipes that recently broke? If you go to the upstairs room, the game room, you'll see that the windows that are kind of roll out, they don't have knobs on them. They haven't had knobs for I don't know how many years. You have to put pliers on them and twist them. So if any councilman could ever take a few minutes before making a decision whether money should be transferred from the Roundout Center to the High Center, you should go and then you could see exactly what the money would be for. You would probably say, gee, all this time I thought we were putting money down the center. We actually need more. So if there's any more to be found, we should put it in the Roundout Center. And also back to the youth for another minute. Some of the youth who come to the Roundout Center move because their parents moved throughout the years. They're up at the High Center. They're back at the neighborhood center. So it should be a place that should not be a fight over who gets the money or money taken from one place to another. They should be trying to find funding for both places. So I think before making any type of decision, I do believe seeing a few of the council members there, whether it was during Black History Week, Kingston Clean Sweep, which the Roundout Center kids did before that actual Saturday. They were cleaning, if you notice, they were cleaning outside the center. There's basketball games they had. I haven't really seen too many that are making the decision to take the money from the center to the High Center. It's, like I said, sometimes you need to come watch a game, pat a youth on the back. And also, I want to bring up one more small thing. Down at the center, the downstairs, they had a weight room, which the Kingston police use, and some of the youth use. A lot of equipment that was down there was from my own home because my husband works down there. So we would take our equipment, put over there, because we wouldn't ask for money or reimbursement. We knew it was going to get used by the youth there because we know money is limited. And then there's other people who will call and say, is there anything we could do? We have extra this or extra that. Let us put it down there. So while money is needed, there's a lot of people taking their time to spend money and put it down to the Roundout Neighborhood Center. But there's also people that try their best to take and do what they have down there and polish it up and try to keep it going because they know that money is limited. So I think before you make a decision whether to split the money up, you should actually take a few minutes to come down to the Roundout Neighborhood Center, go to the building, see what needs to be repaired, and then make your decision. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
James Richter.
James Richter from 55 Van Buren Street. As you know, well, Mr. Noble knows, I've been an advocate for my community for, 11 years, Mr. Noble. A lot of people here, the council members, a few do know me now. Some don't care to know me. But I'm going to try to be nice tonight. I've been an advocate for this park on Van Buren Street for years to get an upgrade. We were originally told $80,000. Then it was downsized to $50,000. We were promised for years to get a streetlight in the park, in the back. So when the Johns and the prostitutes are there, the police can go by and say, hey, we can arrest them. Because they're loitering in our park, using our park. Proof of it, condoms, underwear, needles are always there. I remember years ago cleaning the park one day with a neighbor. Unbelievable amount of debris that's in there. Matter of fact, it's filthy today. And I was told, the Parks Department, I was told by Steve Noble today. Steve Noble was with me right at Van Buren Street Park today. Told me, our guys won't bother cleaning that mess up. There's garbage all over the park. I was told by Steve directly today, they're not going to clean it up. Why? It's their responsibility to maintain the park. Am I right, Mr. Noble? You can. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me. Now, last week I called up Mr. Gilfeather, I believe it was on Monday, before he went on vacation until this Thursday, that somebody, last year, they had the intelligence idea to put up a 4-foot aluminum fence with a 4-foot aluminum gate with plastic hinges. This was supposedly what was left in the budget. Well, the gate was busted several weeks ago. But when I called Mr. Gilfeather, that's when he just found out it was broken. Because the supervisor, whoever's in charge of maintenance over there, finally turned around and told him 3 weeks after. So they did what they felt they could do to fix the gate. Well, here's the bill of the fund that was spent. $47,173, minus the cost for the fence that they bought from Herzog. It's not documented on here yet, because Mr. Gilfeather said he couldn't find it. If I'm saying her name right, Brianna, she gave me this last week. There's no document showing how much the park paid for the fence that the city DPW installed, because Herzog was too expensive to properly do it. Now, who's Brad Will? I see you and the Freeman. Sorry, I didn't mean to single you out, but you say we need accountability, or was that down the other end? And the Freeman, accountability. Okay, Mr. Noble came and met me at the park today. Because Friday, my neighbors come to me who don't want to speak out because they're afraid to. So they come and let me shoulder all the heat from the city. And the neighbors who call me racist names, because some people just keep spreading the rumors around that my family's racist. Mr. Noble came over to observe the park. I said, look at that park bench. We just put a brand new park bench in there last October. He said, what about it? Look at the bolts sticking out of the ground. Oh, they came loose. We can tighten them. Really? You know what I did with bad back and bad shoulders and bad neck? I walked over to the end of the bench and I went like this, pulled it right out of the ground. You know why? I found out DPW or Parks Department put the concrete in this deep, this round, on each leg. It's got to be, I worked for the Bridge Authority when I was able to. We would have been embarrassed if we didn't put 2 feet of concrete on each leg. That's despicable. That bench has now been moved over to the fallen apart gazebo to keep it away from the kids. The gate still needs to be rectified. Some of the playground equipment is unsafe because there's nothing underneath the playground. Now kids can stick their head under there and choke on it and get caught. And who will be coming? The police department, the fire department. Who's going to get sued? We will. Because the condition of this park is how it's been maintained. It's not clean. Nobody's making sure it's correctly having ground cover to prevent kids from going into the playground. Broken equipment. And whoever put the bench in. Yes, Mr. Will, somebody needs to be held accountable. We won't go with the accountability because there's a lot of people here in this department that need to be held accountable. Some with how they make comments about me, saying I'm racist to the neighbors. So it keeps going around because a certain member here has done that 2 years ago when they ran for office, and it still goes around because I'm racist, supposedly. I wouldn't live in Van Buren Street if I was racist. But for some reason, somebody with a smirk on their face knows it's them. Because I confronted them 2 years ago at the diner in front of Mr. Gallo and Mr. The one on the end, I can't remember his name, and confronted her, and she denied it. She said, I don't even know you. Well, then don't make any comments about me, especially when you go to a friend of mine's house. And he's like, oh, I know the gentleman. He's not racist. Oh, Dorian, guess what? I do have friends in this city. And also, I confronted, back to the park, I confronted the community development about the fence that's next to 51 Van Buren Street. I have told the guy who's a new owner there, he just bought the house in October, I said, you need to make documents of this happening, because one of the children went up on that gazebo and fell down, and guess where they fell? Between the city's park fence and his fence, and got stuck there. Now I said, did you call the police or the fire? No, I just helped him out because he was screaming. Well, we can't do nothing. The city's going to say, well, we can't do nothing. It's not a safety hazard. It is a hazard when they climb in a gazebo and jump off and land in somebody else's property. There's a lot of issues with this park. That $80,000 should have been spent. And, I will commend your nephew for one thing. He did call me up and said, guess what? We have a written work order to get the street like that. Been hounding for 4 years. As I've said before, I have broad shoulders. You know how long it took me to get Van Buren Street as a one-way. I'll fight for that street light. Now we don't have to because we have a work order. I did it. My community, I did it for my community. Whether the residents think I'm racist or not, I do it for the kids. I don't have any kids. But I'm not going to tolerate being called racist anymore. I've had it. I've talked to the neighbors and, well, we've been told you're racist. You're racist. What? You don't like the fact that I don't want loud music? You don't like the fact that we don't want drug peddlers there? I'm racist then. I am so proud that I'm finally getting something done to this park. This is accountability by contractors or DPW or whoever did this shoddy work in the park needs to be held accountable for it. It's called accountability. That's what I've been told that it's called. Let's start holding accountability. Council member in Ward 4 should be held accountable for not making sure this is done right. This is her park in our ward.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Andrew Durant.
Howdy, folks. Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the council, I'll try to be brief. I'm speaking tonight about local law number 1 of this year. I thought it was on the agenda for this evening, so excuse me if my remarks are a little out of turn. First of all, I'm sorry?
It's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to make it clear that at the public hearing, which happened earlier this month, only 3 people showed up. As far as I know, all of them showed up voluntarily and of their own volition. And I also want to make it clear that I did not speak against local law number 1. I think the form as proposed is fine. I think that, I forget if it's 2A or 2B, I forget how it's labeled. I think we could use a little more disclosure there instead of less, and not have it exclusive of these groups, but rather disclose all of our partnerships. On the other hand, I don't think the whole thing should be thrown out just because of that one thing. You guys have done a lot of work on that. It's been 2 years since the law was passed. It's the first time anybody's made an attempt at it. Where I think we fall down in this law is procedurally, and this is Chapter 49 of the City Code, local law number 2 of 13 or 12 rather. Procedurally we fall down. Our city clerk is information central. I think all financial disclosure forms ought to be sent out by the city clerk to everyone who has to fill them out. I think they ought to all come back to the city clerk. The city clerk should check them off against the list of people who have to do them. Then copies are made, copies are sent to all of the members of the ethics board. The ethics board meets in a regular meeting to go over the ethics forms and decide if they're filled out correctly, if we disclose properly. Once they're in the city record, there has to be somebody who's in charge of FOIL requests and what gets released, what doesn't. The FOIL requests are very important. I understand that both local newspapers have put in FOIL requests and have gotten nowhere because nobody's sure who handles that and how it's handled. The next thing that has to be done is how complaints are handled. It has to be very specific where they go, how they get there. Again, I think they should be sent to the city clerk. The city clerk should send them on to the Corporation Counsel's office and the ethics board, and again, they need to handle those. It should be the first meeting. There is some procedure in there about that. Finally, I think you need to codify penalties. I'm not saying sentencing guidelines like judges are facing, but you have to codify the penalties for violations of the ethics law. And I think all of this has to be put in. I know that Alderman Dunn had a Ward 3 meeting last month, said that the spirit of the law is openness and disclosure. And he didn't think that it needed to be codified how all of this stuff was done. But in order to satisfy the spirit of the law he said he would be willing to look at that. And I think it would be worthwhile to look at local law, or look at the law, Chapter 49 of the City Code, and redo the parts of the law that really need doing. It's about time. We've had the law for 2 years. Saying that it's too difficult to understand seems like less than an excuse to me. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Nathaniel Murrow.
How you doing? My name's Nathaniel Murray. I'm the one who put out the offer for 451 Beale Street. I have a couple things I'd like to talk about as far as if you guys honor my proposal. I'd like to get it closed up as soon as possible. I got 20 days here I put down. I'd like to get it, sooner than that so kids can't go in there, animals, squatters. I'd like to get it safe. I'd like to proceed after that, 45 days, I'd like to get a demolition permit, get a dumpster in there, start tearing down the old plaster walls, and there's quite a bit of garbage in there. I don't know which one of you have seen the property and walked through it, but house is leaning a little bit on the right side, standing on the front porch. I'd like to get that jacked up and start getting it ready. I'm looking at July 31st of 2016. To get it occupiable. If you have any questions, that's my goal. I've been in the building trades. I'm a local 3 electrician down in the city, and got a lot of friends at my disposal. I work for GCs and plumbers, and I'd like to use anybody that the building committee knows to try to get the permits and stuff finalized. New sewer, new water main brought in. Or whatever I can do, save me out of my pocket.
The alderman really can't address you, but I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
You were there last night at caucus. You understand that we heard clause?
Yes, I do.
You're,
Yes,
I'm all state agent. We conversed with them and he explained everything we said to you and you're okay with everything.
absolutely. I'm looking at the place as a home, so I'd like to get in there as soon as possible. My rent's very high where I am right now, which I stay on top of, but I'd like to own, So it's a great opportunity for me, and I'm very eager to get moving on it. So. Any further questions? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Schwartz-Bridget of 35 Home Street in Kingston, New York. Let's be proud. Demolition by neglect is no way to love our city. As a resident and member of the Landmarks Preservation Commission and the Hudson River Valley Greenway Board of Directors, which oversees the National Heritage area of the Hudson Valley, I am committed to helping Kingston grow economically while honoring its past. Demolition by neglect is a term used to describe a situation in which a property owner allows a historic property to suffer severe deterioration, potentially beyond the point of repair. Sometimes this is intentional in order to circumvent historic preservation regulations. Sometimes demolition by neglect occurs when an owner essentially abandons a historic property. In other cases, the cost of repairs to older buildings may be prohibitive, and deferred maintenance causes economic hardship. Kingston needs to value its historic neighborhoods and the people who live in them. Both deserve support and affirmative policies to make the community an affordable place where people of different economic means can proudly maintain their properties. We need an an affirmative maintenance policy in Kingston, not a policy that encourages neglect and ultimately leads to the kind of demolition we are now seeing. In many cases, these properties would simply benefit from the most basic of supports and incentives. There are several incentive programs that have helped communities throughout the country and New York State to preserve the fabric of communities such as Kingston. There is no one silver bullet to make this happen, however. It requires a coordinated effort that involves the use of incentives, enforcement, and working closely with building enforcement officials in coordination with boards such as our Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission and organizations such as ROCO that can provide home and property owners with guidance. Tax incentives, low-cost loans, and grants are available to property owners and municipalities that want to provide assistance. Volunteer crews can even be organized. According to the National Trust for Historic Preservation, large numbers of historic houses and Main Street buildings in aging communities have been rehabilitated through the revolving loan fund and community investment fund programs. The adoption of new regulatory measures such as neighborhood conservation districts and tax programs have also been instrumental in spurring community reinvestment and stabilizing older historic neighborhoods. Communities, this is the bottom line, communities that preserve their historic properties as well as the many structures that contribute to their historic properties are the ones that have succeeded in attracting economic development through the pride of place that they generate. Here are a few measures recommended by the Trust that have been tested in many cities committed to preserving their historic fabric. 1, require that properties are maintained and major repairs are made on a timely basis and don't penalize them in the taxing process. Number 2, have a good monitoring system in place. Number 3, adopt and utilize demolition by neglect procedures, and I can provide you lots of examples of that. Commit to a course, number 4, commit to a course of enforcement, and finally, work closely with building department officials. Let's be forward-looking and provide the kind of support to our community so that we can thrive and grow in a city where history is not just our beginning, but something that can withstand the test of time. Thank you. Copies for all of you.
Next speaker.
I was just going to try to recall Mark with you.
Apparently something happened. He had to leave.
Okay, Brenna Robbins.
Hello everyone, I'm Brenna Robinson. I'm the Director of the Office of Community Development for the City of Kingston. I'm here tonight to re-read an email that I sent to the council members and President Noble earlier this afternoon in case they didn't all get a chance to read their emails. It read as follows. Good afternoon. I'm writing today in response to a discussion that I was told occurred at last night's caucus meeting. I apologize for not attending the meeting in case you have questions. However, I did make arrangements to be available by phone when the proposed CDBG resolution was discussed. I completely understand Alderman Dunn's support of an organization like Family of Woodstock. It is among the many worthy organizations providing aid and services to the low and moderate income residents of our city, for whom CDBG funding was primarily created to help. But there are a few items I feel I should mention before he makes a motion tonight, on the floor tonight, to change the allocations and resolution language that were unanimously approved by the Community Development Committee last week, of which he was acting chair. Each year, excuse me, I'm suffering the same problem as Estina. Each year, our CDBG entitlement grant from HUD must be used according to specific guidelines, one of which is the cap on the amount of that may be allocated to public services, such as those programs and services provided by Family of Woodstock at the Everett Hodge Community Center. Typically, we are not allowed to use more than 15% of our allocation on these services. However, last year, we were able to designate a Midtown Revitalization Strategy area, which allows us to exceed that cap, but only to fund programs and services provided within that strategy area. During the discussions in the Community Development Advisory Board and Council Community Development Committee meetings over the last 2 months, when the board and committee members were deciding on recommended allocations, this cap was already exceeded by $16,000. It is my opinion and earnest suggestion that this amount should be held at the current level and the public services cap not exceeded further. I believe that HUD will likely not accept our annual action plan if it looks as though we are abusing the flexibility provided by the strategy area. Last night, Alderman Dunn also indicated that he would be requesting to remove some language in Section 2 of the resolution, which currently reads, "In the event that any substantial proposed reprogramming of funds is required, Council's approval will be required as per the 5-year plan, substantial being defined for this annual action plan as a requested increase or decrease in the budgeted amount for an individual activity exceeding 25% of the original budgeted amount when the city determines not to carry out a project or activity described in the approved annual action plan, or when the city determines to carry out a project not previously described in the approved plan." Alderman Dunn said that he will request to remove the word substantial and all of the language after Council's approval will be required. The language as currently proposed already provides more oversight by Council than in any prior years. Additionally, should each and every change require Council approval, it will also require an official amendment with HUD, including a 30-day public comment period, which will detrimentally delay the projects and programs we are planning to help. My office has worked diligently to get the city back into compliance with HUD requirements and to improve the transparency and efficiency of the city's CDBG program. If each and every decision regarding the CDBG program is required to go through the Council and HUD review and approval processes, these programs and projects and their reimbursements will come to a standstill. The city is not allowed to have more than 1.5 times its annual allocation waiting to be spent down, or HUD will recapture that funding, and it will no longer be available for projects and programs that have already budgeted for this assistance. I hope this has been informative, and I thank you for your time and for your consideration of my comments and concerns. Respectfully, Brenner Holmes.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes the speakers that have signed up. Is there anyone else that would like to speak before I declare this portion closed? Okay.
Since my cohort left, I have no idea what happened there. One of the things that he was going to talk to was basically the structure of the museum inside. The exhibits, things like our 2 trucks, the hand pumper, et cetera, that are important artifacts of the city of Kingston. We have like 4,000 people coming through the building in 2014. That didn't include the muster. The other part is that we have 19 members right now. I would venture to say that we come probably close to at least 50 hours a year on that. There are probably a half a dozen of us that are probably close to 200 hours a year, and 1 or 2 that are 400 hours a year. So you can see at the $25 an hour valuation that is given to volunteers working in a nonprofit position, that's a fair amount of money that the city is not having to pay out if this were to be a service that would be provided by the city. Thank you.
Wave is in.
Yeah, can I speak?
You want to speak?
Yes.
Okay, take quick.
Thank you. My name is Clark Richters. I'm a resident of the city of Kingston and have been a visitor of the museum on Fair Street. And also, I had a chance to participate in capturing the mustard, which is great. And I feel that it's an asset for the tourists that come in Kingston. It's just one aspect, just one component. As far as bringing like my grandkids there, it's well kept up, and it's just amazing all the stuff that they have inside. So, as a city resident, I support and encourage the city to support the museum. Thank you.
That concludes the public speaking portion of the meeting. Now go to claims and communications. There ain't no discussion of we file in the clerk's office. Can I get a motion to dispense with the second reading of the general bills to pay same? Second. All in favor? Second. All in favor? Opposed? Bills are paid 9-0. We can get some oxygen. Now go to the report of the committees. And just so we can flow this a little bit, we're bringing 120 up to number 1. That's the sale of the property on Beale Street. Because it would have been after the bonding resolutions, and we really need to know what we're doing before we get to those. Number 120 first.
Resolution number 120 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the sale of 451 Beale Street, tax map number 56.50-1-6.100, and recommending a negative declaration of environmental significance.
On the question.
Mr. President,
Mr. President,
Debbie, go.
As the alternate of the 9th Ward, I have walked along the Beale Street many times and always looked at that green little house. And I thought, boy, it's a shame that something couldn't be done about this, even though it's tilting. But I am pleased that Mr. Mary stepped forward and he wants to make it a house. And I guess he wants to gaze upon the rundown with his boat. So I welcome the neighborhood, and I'm glad that you are coming to purchase, and I'll be a yes vote for that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Done?
yeah, I just want to say I think this is really great. We had a house that's been on the market for something like 500 days. We were getting ready to tear it down and did some promotion on it. We got a lot of publicity thanks to the local papers, and we got a buyer that came along and was going to finally fix up this house. And we got a great deal, and it's going to get back on the tax rolls, and he's going to hopefully do the job that we expect him to do, so that not only is he a good citizen, but he contributes to the community, and that house is now a productive house in our community instead of an eyesore. So I want to congratulate the committee and really the council for working through that process to get to this point and acting really quickly to bring this to a close. So congratulations to everyone, and thank you for everyone's help.
Anyone else on the question before I call for the vote? If no one else, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now move on to resolution number 100.
resolution number 100 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing approval to enter into a stipulation of settlement regarding property located at 164 to 175 Flatbush Avenue, SBL number 48.74-3-26.110.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution number 101.
Resolution number 101 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending approval for modifications to the 2015 economic development budget.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted, 8-1. Now go to resolution number 102.
Resolution number 102 of 2015, memorializing resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, supporting Solarized Hudson Valley and Solarized Kingston campaign.
On the question? Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution number 103.
Resolution number 103 of 2015, an ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, adding handicap parking on Pine Grove Avenue.
On the question? Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution 104.
Resolution number 104 of 2015, an ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, adding handicap parking on Pembroke Avenue.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution 105.
Resolution number 105 of 2015, an ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, repealing handicap parking on Fair Street.
On the question? Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution number 106.
Resolution number 106 of 2015, an ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, altering traffic signals at the intersection of Wall and North Front Street.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution number 107.
Resolution number 107 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing Paul Vosper, architect, the Andy Murphy Midtown Recreation Center Architectural Services contract, and authorizing the mayor to execute said contract.
On the question?
Mr. President,
Alderman Dunn.
this hasn't been a practice that we've done in the past, but I think it's worth considering that when we authorize these contracts, to receive a report back or architectural designs or studies, whatever it may be, that when that report comes back to the executive's office, it also comes to the council so that we have an opportunity to receive it at the same time. And that way, we're fully informed in terms of what the status is of the process. We have an opportunity to review any of the documents. So certainly, going forward, to the extent that it needs to be amended and included in resolutions, it's something that I'd encourage us to consider. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? If no one else, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We now go to resolution number 108.
Resolution number 108 of 2015, bond ordinance dated May 5th, 2015, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $36,000 bonds of the City of Kingston, Ulster County, New York, to pay the cost of engineering and design for improvements to the Midtown Neighborhood Center.
Any question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? I'm sorry, the bond. Okay, this is the actual bond ordinance, so we need a long roll. Starting with
Alderman Carey.
Yes.
Alderman Ball.
Yes.
Alderman Mills.
Yes.
Alderman Chapman. Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Dunn.
Yes.
Alderman Sesh.
Yes.
Alderman Will.
yes.
Alderman Dawson.
The resolution passes 9-0. Now we'll go to resolution number 109.
Resolution number 109 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the sale of 22 South Farrelly Street, tax map number 48.82-6-66, and recommending a negative declaration of environmental significance.
On the question?
Mr. President,
Alderman Dunn.
I'll be brief. I just want to congratulate again the Finance Committee and everybody who's involved in this process. I think it was a long process. I think we struggled with some really tough issues in terms of what to do with this property, what ethically and morally was the right thing to do. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I trust that we've done the right thing, we've done right by this family, we've done right by taxpayers, and we've done the right thing for our community. So again, Congratulations to the Finance Committee and hopefully to this council when we pass this resolution. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Alderman Mills.
I would like to add to Alderman Dunn. Also, I would like to thank the Corporation Council Office for 22 South Fairway and 451 Beale Street for the tremendous amount of effort that went into getting these properties resolved. Thank you, Corporation Council.
Anyone else on the question? Hearing no one else, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. Now go to resolution number 110.
Resolution number 110 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance 100% of the federal aid and state Marchicelli program aid eligible costs of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds therefore and authorizing the mayor to execute a supplemental agreement number 4 with the New York State DOT for the Washington Avenue re-signalization project.
On the question? Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. We'll go to resolution number 111.
Mr. President.
Resolution number 111 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending approval of the sum of $60,000 for demolition of buildings at 451 Beale Street and 463 Beale Street.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a comment.
I beg your pardon?
I'd like to make a comment on this before we go.
Why, I think we probably need an amendment first.
Okay. Just want to get a heads up.
Right?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll make a motion. You want?
To amend?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second? It's for 60,000, we don't want it.
Mr. President.
Well, Mr. President.
Alderman Sessions.
No.
I'll yield to Alderman Mills if she has a comment at a time.
I would like to make an amendment, request an amendment to this resolution that we disapprove 451 Beale Street and only include 463 Beale Street. Therefore, the bond amount would be reduced to $23,741.07.
I'm sorry, what was the amount? We like rounded off, I think that's what you want.
Okay, the rounded off amount would be $24,000.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to her motion just because I think there needs some further clarity. And it says at the end, the demolition of the 2 buildings, and I think what Alderman Mills was looking for was for only the demolition of 1 building.
Correct, Alderman Dunn, I said to disclude 451.
Right.
Okay, so where's,
What's the total?
20. Mr. President.
The true number is $23,741.07. To round it, it would be $24,000.
okay. It doesn't even make me know that's this. Okay, so right, you eliminated.
I'm 450. You want me to read that it as amended?
Okay.
Okay, so it would now read Resolution 111 of 2015, Resolution of Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, recommending approval of the sum of $24,000 for demolition of buildings at 463 Beale Street. Whereas a request has been made for the sum of $24,000 to demolish unsafe building at 463 Beale Street, and whereas the Finance and Audit Committee has received, reviewed, and approved this request, now therefore be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York as follows. That the Common Council approves the request for the sum of $24,000 for the demolition of one building at 463 Avale Street. Said sum to be covered by a bond.
Okay.
The second, Mr. President.
Okay. Everybody good with that? So on the amendment, we have a first and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. President.
Let Alderman Brown go ahead. Go ahead. It's fine.
Before I came tonight, I had a lot of phone calls and emails about the property on Avale Street. Some are unaware that we were going to approve the 451, so I want to discuss the 463 Avale Street. The way the resolution is written, we are allowing for a sale if a buyer comes forth, but we'll have the demolition process in the background if none materializes. The house currently is in a precarious position of collapsing, and we as a city are liable for any injury or death if someone enters the home. It has been designated with an X, telling the fire department to not enter if the house catches fire unless they are very sure a human is inside. We have homeless that seek shelter in anything, and the thought of someone being in that house if it goes down is disturbing to me. I saw evidence at one point of somebody making use of the building. There was a mattress, a flashlight, and takeout food bags. And the police were called as neighbors saw individuals hanging around the back. As you're aware, if the building is designated as historic, the state imposes strict guidelines which can cost up to hundreds of thousands of dollars for restoration and renovation. One example right now is the Rare Bakery down there. They're almost up to $1 million in restoring that building. Doing a beautiful job, but they have the money to do that. This can sometimes cause abandoned homes to stay in a decaying matter until it collapses. An example of that building is Henry Street, which is it was supposed to be Transart for the American African community. It is slowly disintegrating, and not to mention the anger of neighbors who look at this house every day. And I have to say I was for this building when they proposed it as a community for arts. But unfortunately, the person who took over it cannot afford it. And now it's deteriorating, and what are we left to do? We're reluctant to touch it because it has historic designation. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. I do not like tearing down old houses. I have a house I restored. In fact, this picture was in the Friends of Historic Kingston. It's not historic, but it was built in 1879 as a farmhouse on Hasbrook Avenue. There is charm in old designs and history and who lived there, famous or not famous. But in some neighborhoods that are not thriving, an abandoned, decrepit house brings a neighborhood down. We have seen that in the Midtown section of Kingston, bordering the Stockade region. I have to protect the city and human life. This house is also directly under the train trestle, and the front porch door is only feet from the busy Avale Street on a sharp curve. When I was walking about the ward last year, a car whizzed by as I was checking out the house. He swerved as he didn't see me at first as I stepped off the porch. That might be why this house was abandoned. The property has been on the market for 500 days. Do we really have the luxury of waiting for a process or a guideline to be developed? I am doubtful, and I have to ask, where have these people been who are now concerned about the building's demise as its possible implication of being an historic designation? You can't miss the house. People probably drive by it every day, and I just want to know, where were you when we really needed you? I am pleased that the other house had an offer. The man happens to be a contractor. A lot of the expenses of renovating he saves by doing it himself. Thank you.
Alderman Sessions.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I would like to just emphasize the fact that if we do get an offer on this house, which looks like we might, but at the same time, the city is certainly liable, under the attractive nuisance if someone would be in there, get hurt, God forbid it falls down, like we're talking about. We as a city can certainly be liable, and as a result, we really need to step up and take responsibility for these buildings and do what's right, make them safe, and make them follow the same rules we impose on other citizens for houses we take down. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Alderman Mills.
I would just like to say that what Alderman Brown and Alderman Sesh have said, I also agree with. And I would just like to say with the Historic Commission, I appreciate their comments tonight. And I believe that Where diligence is due to restore a historic property or building, we should. We stand in one today, right now. This building was restored. And that's showing that when something is of historical value, it should be performed. And it was mentioned in comments tonight that the Historic Commission was made aware of this at the 11th hour. I must concur and agree, as was I. The information was not presented at the Finance Committee. There was some other information, which is good information that was presented there, and there's some options that we can look at. But it's evident that this house is in disarray and causes a liability to the city. Thank you.
Mr. President, council members, contrary to popular belief, this house is not in my ward. I had a lot to say about a house that wasn't in my ward, but the facts really don't matter to me whether it's in my ward or not. Like Debbie, I go by that house. I can't even imagine how many times I've been by that in my lifetime. One of the things that concerns me is I'm vaguely familiar with the situation, but I was not aware that that could be purchased by anybody. There was a for sale sign that's kind of laying down. I wasn't even quite sure of the status. I don't think the general public is. I don't mind voting for demolition. I've been down to visit the site. It's a rough piece of work. But given that Mr. Mercy stepped forward and is willing to purchase one of the properties, with the publicity that's been generated lately with this, I would feel more comfortable voting for it if we had a definite amount of time before the demolition. I know we've been told by the Corporation Council, we probably have 3-4 weeks before the demolition, which gives us a small window, but we don't have a guarantee. I would certainly like something written in there that would give us 30 days to let somebody come forward with an offer, and I think this will, be in the paper, let people know that it can be purchased. Certainly, I would rather have it rehab, put on the tax rolls, and have a nice piece of property. I think we're in agreement with that. It's a long shot, but for the sake of a month, it's been in that condition for as long as I can remember. Something could happen. The city should take the responsibility to make sure it's secure in the meantime. But I would definitely, I would like to see some window of opportunity for someone to come forward and purchase this property at their expense. Thank you.
Mr. President, I just have a question. Are we voting on the motion that Alderman Mills made, or because I have another motion? I just wanted to make sure where we were in the process.
Right now, we're voting on the recommendation to spend $24,000 to demolish 463. We voted the amendment to the resolution.
I agree with you.
We haven't voted on the amendment yet.
No.
Okay. So then after we vote on the amendment, I'll make a motion. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on the question? Before I call for the vote? Mr. President.
I appreciate everybody's comments tonight, and I thank members of the public that spoke eloquently about this. I think it's a tragedy if we were to even consider demolition of this property. I know that sounds kind of strange because it's in bad shape, but I think I would extend that opinion to almost any kind of property that is dated from 1810 to 1830 and has historic relevance, even if it's not listed, which it isn't. It is in the historic overlay district. The Heritage Area Commission oversees this zone. I think I think by putting it, even as I appreciate what Steve said about having a time period on this, that's kind of a cloud and a sword hanging over this property. I mean, if there was really a lot of concern about the safety, as Alderman Brown brought up, for all of these weeks and months and years possibly, that it was owned by the city, that the buildings, both buildings, 451 and 463, should have been boarded up. As it is now, anybody can walk in there. So if there was a real concern about liability, that would have been handled a long time ago by the city, and it wasn't. I would say, it's my opinion, that the 463 is not about to fall down. I think that if someone were to go in there, like Mr. Murray is doing so for 451, that it can be repaired. That there is historic relevance to the structure. It does face the rondout. The front addition was put on in the early 20th century. It's not, excuse me, not original according to the 2002 by the archaeologist without for both properties, who determined that both properties are eligible for state and national historic register status. Those were exercised, and as Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey noted, this is essentially a case of demolition by neglect. And I just think it sends a really bad message, a poor message, and not consistent with what Kingston is about. Historic is just our beginning, for instance. That to tear this down would just, that site would then lay fallow for who knows how long. Anyway, I think it is a big mistake to be voting on the demolition of this, and I would be a no vote. Thank you.
Anyone else on the amendment before I call for the vote? Hearing no one, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
No. Who knows on the amendment? Did the noes raise their hand? Just so I can be sure.
Mr. President, I think there may be some confusion about what the vote was, and I just want to make sure that the homes understand. Thank you.
What we're voting on here, the original resolution called for spending $60,000. We've taken the money out of it that we've sold the property, so we don't need that additional funding to spend for demolition. So this is now changing that to the proper amount to tear down this other building. So we're going to vote for that. We may or may not. And then you're going to vote on the thing. You're just voting for the change of the amount right now. As you mentioned, 60 to 24. And then you're going to vote if you want to do it or not. So everybody understand that? Yes. Do you want to re-vote? Anybody want to change your vote? Yeah. You want to change your vote or not?
I'll vote yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have 8-1. You're the only negative, Brett? Okay. 8-1 for the amendment passes. Now, the resolution as amended. Alderman John.
Mr. President, I move to amend section 1 to include the following sentence, and depending on where this goes, I can certainly provide a copy to the city clerk. To state, the demolition of the building shall not occur within 45 days in order to allow for the sale of the building to the highest offer.
Can you say it again, Matt? So I can write it down.
Mr. President, I would just ask, I would just ask Corporation Counsel if that language is clear enough to preclude the demolition of the building for 45 days in order for allowing the sale to occur. If that language is not strong enough, I think it needs to be changed, but to the extent that that's what the intent is, and that's everybody's understanding, we're on the same page, then I'm comfortable with that language.
Strictly speaking, you're not voting on the demolition of the building, but only the bond. But I think if the bond is contingent on that language, I would certainly consider that to be sufficient.
Thank you.
My only concern, all we've done, is that as I believe Dan Gartenstein mentioned last night, we monitor these buildings, and as we told you yesterday, one collapsed over the weekend, another building. So that would be the only concern I would have. But as far as the language is concerned, it's my concern was the language. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Okay, wait till I get a second.
I'll second.
No, you're second. Let her read. So we got on the record.
Okay, so he made a motion to amend resolution 111 to add the following to section 1. The demolition of the building shall not occur within 45 days in order to allow for the sale of the building to the highest offer.
45 days for when?
Starting when?
Starting when?
From the passage of the
Resolution.
Okay, right, this evening.
Mr. President, I have
Okay.
a question in regard to
So
that.
I have a
amendment.
first and I have a second, so this is on the amendment.
With that being said, with the amendment, do we need to include in that amendment as well, should something happen with that building where it does begin to crumble within the 45 days that we need to take action on? Does that need to be stated there as well?
Mr. President.
Alderman Saxon.
Thank you. As Alderman Mills has brought up, the question would be, does the Building and Safety Department have the authority to act? Well, I believe they've already said that regardless of whether we pass the bonding, etc., if they feel that the building is in danger to someone, that they will proceed to take it down immediately. So I'm not sure that that still qualifies, but I believe that as to Corporation Council, is that correct, that they can take it down if they believe it's imminently going to collapse and into danger to persons in the neighborhood?
You have an answer for that, Andy? I'm not sure. You want to know?
Question was simply, does Building and Safety have the right to take down a building if they believe it's in imminent danger to persons?
Well, if it was an imminent danger, the issue would be whether the bonding is, the city willing to take it down.
Regardless of the bonding, because when I spoke to them, they were saying that despite whatever might happen, because they're currently monitoring the building, they interpret the ordinance to read that if it's an imminent danger, they'll just go and take whatever action they need to protect the citizenry of Kingston.
The city, all municipalities contain, the ultimate police power to exercise in the case, protect public safety. I think in the circumstances here, it would only be done if we were under the circumstances where it was imminent danger to life as opposed to the building. I have asked the building department to vacate it again. It was at one time. The sign was also up and was torn down. That's what happens to these buildings when they leave it out there long enough. People just decide that they're going to take it in their hand. So we'll do that again, and hopefully the building will survive 45 days. But the direct answer to your question is that we have that inherent ability to protect privacy. And I don't believe the location of this building is close to another building. Imagine that happening.
All right, so what I take is those police powers still exist, regardless of what we might put in a bond resolution. Yes.
What do you mean?
The police powers still exist, regardless.
Powers inherent.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to. All right. Thanks.
Okay, so this is the motion to amend resolution 111 to add the following to section 1. The demolition of the building shall not occur within 45 days in order to allow for the sale of the building to the highest offer.
This is a vote on the amendment to the amendment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, so the amendment passes 8-1. So now we're going to vote on the resolution as amended multiple times. On the question.
Mr. President.
Alderman Dunn.
I just want to say that I appreciate everybody who came out and was speaking in favor of this property. I think we've taken a great step forward in dealing with unsafe buildings, and now we're evolving into the next stage of this conversation. in terms of what to do with these properties, how to get these properties from an unsafe building to rehab them or to demolish them. And that's a good place to be in because we weren't having these conversations before. So I think also that for this council to adopt that amendment is a step in the right direction. It certainly splits the conversation that we had last night and the conversation that we heard from many community members and the various concerns that exist. I hope at the end of the day that we get a buyer that comes out and offers $1, $2, $10, $1,000, whatever the number may be, so that we can sell this property, hopefully fix it up, and get it back on the tax rolls and get another family living in it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Carey?
This is how government works out. I think it's important that we have a mechanism to take it down. That doesn't mean if we pass this, it's going to come down tomorrow, and we've had extensive conversation supporting that, which I'm glad. But I think the one thing, whether it's a historic building or not, is it's the one directly below the trestle, correct? So I think there's a little bit of a danger. You can put up a $1 million building, and you're underneath the trestle, which I'm guessing was built after this house was built, and there's debris flying constantly. So I think there are a lot of other issues with that, as far as not just the building being unsafe, but the air above you as well. So, but I do like the idea of having a mechanism in place that we can take it down should an emergency arise. So, and I think there's been good dialogue with this. And thank you for letting me be part of it.
Anyone else on the question?
Mr.
Before I call for the vote.
Mr. President,
We'll move around.
I think that's a good compromise. We got 45 days. You have an active search, so I think it was a good compromise. Rather than coming down tomorrow, we have a little chance to publicize it more, and I've had some people contact me who are interested, so it's all good. But I also, like I said, I want to have it, the bricks start to pop out and fall down, we got to get it down, because there's a highway there too. People seem to forget. That house collapses, it'll cover a Beale Street, it'll go right across the street, so I'm glad that option's in there. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? If no one else, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay. Only one. Resolution is adopted, 8-1. We now go to resolution number 112.
Resolution 112 of 2015, bond ordinance dated May 5, 2015, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $60,000 bonds in the city of Kingston, Fulton County, New York, pay the cost of the demolition and site stabilization of city-owned buildings.
Okay, on the question, and I need amendment.
Mr. President, I'd make a motion to amend the bond ordinance to be consistent with Resolution 111. If you want more specifics than that, I'd be happy to get it, but that works.
Wait for that.
Second, Mr. President.
All right. On the amendment, any questions?
But it's not, it's also the duration, so I want to make sure that it's all tied together. So,
Well, I don't think that would come into effect on the bond, which bond is the bond.
I just heard, and maybe I misheard Corporation Counsel, but I thought I heard him say that we needed to amend the bond ordinance to be consistent with the motion that I previously made regarding Resolution 111. But if we don't need to, then if that's his advice, I'm comfortable with that.
We have to amend it with respect to the address and the amount because we've already conditioned this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on the question for the amendment, hearing no discussion, call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The amendment is adopted. 9-0, do you vote? Yes. Okay, so now we're going to vote long roll on the amended resolution. Amendment.
Which will now be Resolution number 112, 2015, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $24,000 bonds of the city of Kingston, Ulster County, New York, to pay the cost of demolition and site stabilization of city-owned buildings.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I just wanted clarification. Resolution 112 I have here is related to CDBG. Was there an insertion? No,
We had to move them around in order to put the
Yeah, that was the
bonds.
whole number.
Oh, my number.
Someone made a good suggestion, I'd like to separate them.
Yeah, but we separated the bonds in order to keep them with their corresponding.
Okay, so this is about the bond for the demolition of all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Ball. Yes. Alderman Mills. Alderman Chavez. Alderman Brown. Alderman Dunn.
Yes.
Alderman Sesh.
Yes.
Alderman Will.
No.
Alderman Dawson. Alderman Carey.
Resolution is adopted, 8-1. Now go to resolution number 113.
Resolution number 113 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the creation of the Kingston Arts Commission.
On the question? Being no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. Now go to resolution number 114.
Resolution number 114 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the purchase of a new truck for the Department of Public Works.
On the question? Being no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. Now go to resolution number 115.
Resolution number 115 of 2015, bond ordinance dated May 5th, 2015, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $50,000 bonds of the City of Kingston, Ulster County, New York, to pay the cost of the purchase of a truck for the Department of Public Works.
Call roll.
Alderman Mills.
Yes.
Alderman Chavez.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Dunn.
Yes.
Alderman Sesh.
Yes.
Alderman Will.
Yes.
Alderman Dawson. Alderman Carey.
Yes.
And Alderman Wall.
Resolution is adopted, 9-0. Now go to resolution number 16.
That should be.
Mr. President?
Yes. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. You realize that most of these bonds, some of these bonds are already passed.
Yeah, that needs to just be removed.
Okay. What's that one?
Resolution number 117 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the amendment of the City of Kingston Complete Streets Policy.
On the question? Any no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted, 9-0. Now go to resolution number 118.
Resolution number 118 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, supporting the proposal to proceed with work at the site of the old parking garage in Uptown Kingston and refer to the Finance Committee for funding.
On the question?
Mr. President?
Alderman Sessions.
Thank you. I just appreciate this being taken up by Public Safety as a lead resolution. The reason for this is simply that the uptown business structure really relies on tourism as well as local shoppers, and there's been a great deal of confusion how to get to different parking garages, etc.
And I'm sure that everyone knows the uptown business community contributes a great deal to our tax base, and as well the vast majority of parking meter revenue as well as parking ticket revenue is generated by the uptown area. So I think it's fair that we give back, and spend some money on resolving what has been a long-standing sore point uptown. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? President, Alderman Dunn.
I just want to state, I think we all received the mayor's memo, and there were any number of inaccuracies in that memo, ranging from all of us sitting on the council, none of us on the council were presently on the council. We were on the council 4 years ago when the mayor says he made this proposal to fix these variety of things. We know that the stairs for the garage didn't close until the winter of 2012 or into the winter of early winter of 2013. I don't think it's that the council failed to act. I think these are issues in terms of how much money are we going to spend on any number of projects. We've spent $7 million last year on infrastructure projects. Certainly we know we have a whole laundry list of infrastructure projects that need to be fixed, whether it's our own buildings, whether it's the sewer and stormwater, or our streets and so on. And we know that the parking and the signage and the curbage, these are all issues uptown, as there are issues in midtown and downtown that also need to be resolved. How we prioritize that, what process we go through, what takes a priority, what we say goes first, second, and third, can go on any number of factors. Just because a business pays taxes, just because a business employs people, doesn't necessarily mean that we should pass those bonding resolutions or approve them. Although it certainly can be a factor that we consider. We all pay taxes, we all are residents, we all contribute to our community. So I think we are going through a process in terms of our infrastructure this year, we're going through an asset management plan, we're evaluating our infrastructure. I look forward to addressing and reviewing this information in finance. I don't have a whole bunch of information currently, but certainly we know these are issues that need to be resolved, and I look forward to addressing them in finance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question before I call for the vote? Seeing no one else, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Resolution is adopted. 8-1. Now go to resolution number 194.
Resolution number 119 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, approving a memorializing resolution supporting and encouraging the Kingston School District's efforts to hire a consultant to conduct a feasibility study to determine whether a project labor agreement, PLA, is in the best interest of the Kingston School District and district taxpayers.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is adopted. 9-0. We now go to resolution number 121.
Resolution number 121 of 2015, bond ordinance dated May 5th, 2015, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of an additional $1 million bonds of the City of Kingston, Ulster County, New York, to pay part of the cost of the reconstruction and construction of improvements to the water treatment facility in and for said city. Alderman Shabbat?
Yes.
Alderman Brown? Yes. Alderman Dunn?
Yes.
Alderman Setch?
Yes.
Alderman Will?
Yes.
Alderman Dawson? Yes. Alderman Carey?
Yes.
Alderman Ball? Yes. Alderman Mills? Yes.
Resolution is adopted. 9-0. Now go to resolution number 122.
Resolution number 122 of 2015, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, approving the fiscal year 2015 Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Annual Action Plan, and reallocation of prior year's funding.
On the question?
Mr. President,
Alderman Dunn.
motion. In terms of the allocations that are attached to the resolution, my motion is to reduce the line 23 from the Hodge Center facility improvements, which currently stands at $40,500. Reduce that by $4,000 and increase line 4 by $1,000 and increase line 5 by $3,000.
Which line did you reduce, Matt?
Reduce line 23
By 4,000?
by $4,000. Line 4 would increase by $1,000 to bring it up to $10,000. It currently stands at $9,000. And line 5 would increase by $3,000 to move it from $22,000 to $25,000.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. On to the amendment.
Mr. President.
Alderman Dunn.
Thank you. Family of Woodstock is an important and valuable partner. Like many organizations are, the Family of Woodstock is certainly, they're housed in our community buildings. We support them in the past, and we're supporting them this year. I think it's important to continue to support Family of Woodstock because with these increases, because they serve some of the neediest of the neediest. They serve 50 kids a day. The kids that they serve, on average, they're in the 95 percentile of 95% of them receive free lunches or receive reduced lunches. And so certainly this is consistent with our goals to help Midtown, as is our goals to help other areas of the city. And we know, and while some may argue, and some may say we need to do more with less, well, these kids, these 5 to 12-year-olds, are already doing as much as they can do with as little as they may have. There have been arguments and statements about, well, this is going to jeopardize our community development fund. We're already above the threshold of the 15,000 or the 15%. This modest change of $4,000 is approximately a 0.5% increase. So this increase will not jeopardize our chances at community development funds and not put our program in jeopardy anymore. It won't put our program in jeopardy any more than the increases that we already did. This increase is nominal. And I want to stress that this is not necessarily taking money from one program to another. It's simply transferring money from one program to another program with a commitment, a promise to replenish that $4,000 if we need to at the Hodge Center. So we'll find the money somewhere. We often do, and there are any number of sources to do that. All it's doing is reducing the community development funds. So I would encourage you to support this. Family of Woodstock provides an important service to our community. They're a valuable partner, and we need to continue to support them. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? If no one else, I'm going to call for a vote to amend. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Please raise your hand, the opposed. The amendment is defeated, 7-2. So now we'll go back to the resolution as opposed on the question.
One more motion, Mr. President.
Alderman Dunn.
I promise I can do it. I move to amend Section 2 of the resolution to remove the word substantial in the first line, and to remove where it says in the second line, as per, where it starts with the word as, all the way to the end. So the rest of section 2 would read, in the event that any proposed reprogramming of funds is required, council's approval will be required.
So everything after required, you're approved.
Correct, after the second required.
Okay. Yes. So the motion is to remove the word substantial and then everything after the second required. So if section 2 would read, in the event that any proposed reprogramming of funds is required, council's approval will be required.
Yes. Unfortunately, this is required.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question, the amendment, Alderman Dawson.
Mr. President, I apologize for the last note. Prior to being on the council, I was on the CDBG board. And I'm insulted that Mr. Dunn will not let this board do what it's committed to do. I trust that this board is capable of doing what it's supposed to do. Eventually, I'm going to watch any and every piece of executive government in the city of Kingston. I'm insulted because I previously was on that board. So, I'm definitely no. It gets ridiculous, and I apologize again for the last.
Anyone else on the question? Mr. President. Alderman Dunn.
Thank you. This change is consistent with the changes that we've had over the past 2 years. There was a period where community development and what was going on there was a little bit rougher. And so the council reined in its oversight. And one of the things that we did not have and that we thought and that the administration position was that the council did not have the right to authorize the reprogramming of funds. So, what did the council do? The council then addressed that issue, and we changed the rule when we adopted the 5-year plan to require that if there's any reprogramming of funds, that it would come back to the council for our approval. That's been the process for at least the past 2 years. There haven't been any problems with that process. There haven't been any complaints about that process. That process hasn't caused any delays. It hasn't caused any detriment to the community development department. And certainly, what we've done, what the council has done, as you can see by the Kingston's Art Commission, the resolution, and as according to other resolutions that we've passed in other times, the council acts quickly, and we do it repeatedly. So if something requires an emergency, we do it, we act, and we act promptly. This is important for our oversight. There was a time when we had to pay back $30,000 in community development funds. We did that, but because we're authorizing it, because we monitor the purse, because we monitor the expenditures, this is just simply one part of that piece. I think it's important for the council to have oversight. I think it's important for us to be involved. I think it's important for the council to exert its oversight responsibilities, especially when one of our core responsibilities is to be responsible for the financial and the fiscal management of the city. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? Alderman Dawson.
I apologize again. I just have to say, that I agree that we should have oversight. I do believe we should have oversight. I think that we should be made aware of certain things, but to actually have to take on responsibility. I don't know what your position is, but I'm an older one. That's what I am. I'm not the mayor. I'm not anybody in executive branch. I understand my role. I'm trying to do that as best I possibly can. I do not want to mistrust every agency in the executive government of the city of Kingston. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else on the question? Last time.
Point of order, Mr. President. Alderman Dunn has spoken twice on this.
Well, the first one was the announcement.
He spoke twice on this amendment.
He made the motion on the amendment. Now he's speaking the second time.
This isn't about oversight, or this isn't about mistrust, because certainly there may be good people, there may be people that do their job well, and there may be people that do not do their job well. This is simply about council's oversight, our monitoring of that process, and us exerting our rights and our responsibilities, as is mandated by the charter, over the fiscal monitoring of the city. We do that with the budget, we do it with the approval of vouchers, and we do it with any number of activities and policies that we implement. We do it with bonding. It's part of what we do. That is one of our core responsibilities. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? Hearing no one, I'm going to call for the vote on the amendment. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Please raise your hand on the opposed. The amendment is defeated 8-1. Now we'll vote on the original resolution on the question. Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The resolution is adopted 9-0. That concludes the committee reports for this evening. We will now go to we are now going to the mayor's veto proposal, local law number 1. Please read that.
Veto of local law number 1. Dear Mr. President, please be advised that I vetoed local law number 1 of 2015 adopting a new ethics reporting form. For the reasons set forth below, I believe the form as adopted undermines the purpose of the City of Kingston ethics law, which is to make our government transparent and to assure the public that the city officials conduct the city's business, not the private business of special interests or individuals. As you know, I conducted a public hearing this morning and received a number of comments, the substance of which appears below. The financial disclosure form approved by the local law exempts from substantive disclosure individuals, lawyers, engineers, architects, real estate brokers, and other professionals whose clients may have business before city agencies and boards. The residents of the city have a right to know that city officials do not have a conflict between their private businesses and their public duties. The change in the form is a step backward in our ethics legislation, limiting rather than expanding disclosure of private interests that may influence public action. As the council has already recognized, the current ethics legislation needs modification to provide, among other things, for the opening of the financial disclosure form and comprehensive disclosure by the spouses or domestic partners of public officials whose clients or customers may benefit from the actions of public officials. I believe that these changes are vital to providing the Ethics Commission with the tools to effectively enforce both the letter and the spirit of ethics law we all worked so hard to craft. Rather than appeal piecemeal approach to the necessary change, I would ask the council to consider comprehensive legislation amending to the ethics law. Sincerely, Chairman Brown.
So I'm going to call for the question, then I'm going to call for the vote to override. So on the question. Alderman Secretary.
Thank you. Well, I certainly agree with many of the points in the mayor's veto message. I would certainly like, at this point, to say I'm going to vote to override the veto simply to get this shorter questionnaire in process for all the people in the city of Kingston that are supposed to be filling it out. I certainly would encourage laws and rules to take this up and follow through with a much more comprehensive legislation answering all the questions in the mayor's veto message, including readjusting the questionnaire if we feel it's necessary. But again, part of the reason this was taken up some time ago was simply that the current legislation, I personally believe, is unworkable, and as a result we had very high incidence of non-compliance with the questionnaire since it's been adopted. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question before I call for the vote?
Mr. President,
Alderman Johnson.
I concur with Alderman Such. I think one of the things that I found in my experiences in practicing law, that the more simple you make a form, the more easy it is to understand. It's going to encourage a greater response, and people will submit. They'll submit whatever response they may have, and that certainly offers a benefit. So I join with Alderman Such in asking that council override the veto. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question before I call for the vote? Need 6 votes to veto. Override the veto. On the question, all in favor, affirmative to override the veto? Aye. Opposed? But to the opposed, raise your hand. The veto is overridden 6-3. That concludes the resolutions and committee reports for this evening. Before I ask for motion to adjourn, is there any?
Mr. President, are we, there was a late communications put on our desks this evening.
Okay, we're just going to have that refer to laws and rules. We're going to send it right to
Okay, thank you.
planning. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's necessary recommendations back.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, if business is over, I'd like to adjourn the meeting in memory of Jim Madden, who passed a few days ago. As many of you know, I worked with him. He was at Alderman at one time. Lived on Hoffman Street. He's now my ward. And predeceased by his wife Ellen. They had a wonderful family. 4 children left behind: Megan, Aaron, Kelly, and Jim. Great Kingstonians, great family, and he will be missed. Someone to honor his memory.
Thank you. Anyone else? Already done?
I'd like to end in memory of Myron Bush. He died and passed on April 12th of this year. He served in the Naval Reserve. He worked for IBM. He was married for 59 years, which I can only look forward to one day. So was my wife. But I had the opportunity to meet him a few times, and he was truly a gentleman, and I know he was lovely to me. Thank you.
Alderman Session.
Just again about Jim Madden, I just wanted to say he was certainly one of the highlights of the city of Kingston for so many years, and particularly we'll miss his face on the St. Patrick's Day parade. Thanks.
Anyone else? Alderman Chadwick.
I'd like to close in memory of Steve Witkowski, longtime Kingston resident and veteran, very active senior golfer. At 95, beats me every year in the senior tournament.
That's not saying much.
Yeah, but anyway, very, very nice gentleman. I will miss him a lot.
Anyone else? Actually, I actually had a couple that I was bringing with me tonight. Of course, I left them in my vehicle, but I'll try to remember. I'd like to close in memory of Mrs. Hastings, Roberta Hastings from Stanley Street. She's a music teacher. She instructed music. She's very involved in her church, St. Mary's, and she was in the choir. She has a large family that lives in the city of Kingston. So I'd like to close in her memory. I'd also like to close in the memory of Mr. Darlock. I don't know if you've seen the papers a while back. He was celebrating his 100th anniversary or his 100th birthday, and he served in World War II in the Big Red One, and he was very active in the community. I remember he used to service our neighborhood when I was growing up, so I remember. So I'd like to close in his memory also. And the other person I can't remember who it was, so not to get on next one. Anyone else on anything? Can I get a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Opposed? Hereby stand adjourned until the next regular scheduled meeting.